Good morning to some, good afternoon to others. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Today we're going over law number 20. Law number 20 of John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership. We're going to get started today with the law of explosive growth. Adriana's with us. Adrian's with us. Hello. Bess is with us. Hello and good morning.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
How's everybody today? You ready for the law of explosive growth? Number 20 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell that we bring you. We are Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, also a certified John Maxwell trainer, and Bess McCarty of the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers and a shrink of MLM. So we partner to bring you these generic trainings every noon. What's that?
Oh, I said hello to Josh Bach.
Hey, all right. And James and Francisco and Adrian. All right. So glad you guys are here. So our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, equip, and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. We love partnering to bring you these lunchtime, MLM lunchtime leadership shows at noon every weekday Eastern time. And if you're not a yet member of the Facebook group, you can go to that Facebook group, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and become a member to get notices, replays, free books, free book, the show. And if you're watching the replay, we'd love if you type in replay, because we do like to see that afterward, and also love to hear where you're from. If you'd like to type that in, I'd like to welcome you from there. We get people from all over the world. It's really cool. So John Maxwell says, if you develop yourself, you can experience personal success. And that's like just, being, just doing the business just by yourself. That's cool. You can experience personal success. But if you develop a team, you can experience, your organization can experience growth. And that would be recruiting other people, not just you servicing customers, but training other people to do that too. But the third level, if you develop leaders, your organization can experience explosive growth. And that is the theme of today, how to take it to that third level. And I'll turn this over to Jeff here.
Awesome. Welcome, guys. There's a bunch of people jumping on here. Leona's with us. Joyce is with us. So the law of explosive growth, what it says is, it is the leader's job to build people who are going to build the organization. So many times inside of direct sales, or many times inside of any organization, if you expect the organization to grow, you have to focus on actually building the people. And there's a couple different things to building people: equipping people, believing in people, understanding people, are all different things. It's awesome. Josh is actually here. For those of you who don't know, Josh Bach and I worked together years ago on a project that we built literally across the country. It grew to over 3,000 people, I think, just in his organization, or maybe it was 5,000. I can't remember the exact number, all across the nation. And we used to go over this actual book and these lessons. And that was one of the ideas that we pulled in from what we used to do. So Josh has been through this, and Josh and Harrison are building, and I know there's a group of people that are actually building Amplify India. Amplify India actually is here in Indianapolis, a non-for-profit group. So he understands this, and I might relate to some of the stuff that I've seen him and his organization do, which is bring on other people who actually know and have the ability. They're leaders themselves, so they have the ability to bring other people to the table who have different skills than they do, to be able to build. Not that they're better, not that they're worse at something. It's just they're able to bring people who have strengths to work together, to collaborate. So law number 20, the law of explosive growth, learning the law of growth. It says to add growth, lead followers. But to multiply, you have to lead leaders. So you're going to have to bring some people on who have the ability to influence others. That is not an easy thing to do. Because most of the time leaders are busy. Most of the time leaders are into what they're doing. So it's usually difficult to get everybody to collaborate. Josh and his group are really good at it. Often, it's always, not often, but not always, organizations lag behind. This is because the tension between where the group is and where they want them to be. The answer is actually found in the law of explosive growth, is bringing on people who have the ability to actually affect other people, to influence other people. And that's not an easy thing to do. Mark's with us. So if you develop yourself, you can experience personal success. So personal development's great, but are you passing that development on to other people? Are you reading as a group? Are you going through as a group? You can actually influence the entire group by what you're going over by simply masterminding on a particular subject. And I know Josh and his group actually get together, I know at least once a week, and they'll mastermind on certain subjects. Now they focus on the non-for-profit area, just like we're focusing on the MLM direct sales area, but both are important. Both involve groups of people who influence other people to be able to build and grow. Two, if you develop a team, your organization can experience growth. So what you want to do is not make it all about you, but make it about the people that you're affecting. Make it about the growth of everyone in the group, rather than just maybe yourself or just an individual. If you develop leaders in your organization, then they can experience explosive growth, because you're talking about who to go after, not just going after participants, not just going after followers, not just going after customers, but in our business, we want to recruit recruiters. We want to recruit team builders. And there's a difference between a recruiter and a team builder. I learned this in one of my organizations. We ended up meeting part of our lineage. This was a long time ago in another company. And the lady's like, well, I'm a recruiter, but I'm not a team builder. I said, okay, explain to me the difference. She goes, well, I realize because of my job and because of what I do, I don't really have the ability to build the team. I don't really have the ability to come in and affect people and fly all over the country. So what I do is I recruit them and I plug them in to the overall organization. And I let them know, hey, look, I'm just a connector. I'll connect you to what's going on, but that's as far as I have the ability to take people. That worked out pretty well for her. She had about 18,000 people in her downline, and was a six-figure earner and retired. Now, some people are like, well, that must be the way to go. She's like, not necessarily. It took me 10 years to find the people who could do it on their own. So it's a much longer route than being a team builder. She's like, I lost a lot of people due to the fact that I wasn't able to get them connected to the right people. She's like, but that's all I had the ability to do. So I just stuck around long enough to make it work. Obviously, it worked in her favor, but it took a long time to get that done. So, three, being a leader is one good thing, but becoming a leader who develops a leader is a totally different mindset. Being a great salesperson is one thing. Being able to turn the numbers is good, but being able to bring people on and affect people and effectively believe in them, effectively coach them, effectively help them get to where they need to go. And there's two things you need to help them with. You got to help them with what? You got to help them with the basics, understanding what to do and how to do. And that's usually about 20% of what needs to happen. It's about 20%. And people would think, oh my gosh, I thought knowing what to say and what to do was 80, 90, maybe even 105%. But it really is only about 20% of what's going on, but it's absolutely necessary to say the right thing. The second piece, the 80%, is really your personality of understanding other personalities and or your mindset of how to deal with everything that comes your way while you're building an organization. The mindset is actually the most important thing. It probably encompasses 80%. As you work on yourself, as you work on your mindset, as you work on your belief, as you work on your ability to affect people, as you work on your ability to understand people, that will take you further than any of the skills, which is why, Andrew Carnegie ended up getting paid $1 million. This was almost 100 years ago at this point. He was paid almost $1 million because of how he was able to affect people. That was one of the reasons he was brought on. He brought on, several people into his organization. I think he had 44 people in his organization that made $1 million. And it wasn't because necessarily their skill set of the skill of the industry, it was the skill of dealing with people. So dealing with people actually makes more of a difference than actually the skill set in your particular field. So that's number 4. Number 5, it says leaders who attract followers need to be needed. And you've met these people, they come up, what about me? 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 Every time you're with them, they're asking about that. What you want to do is look for people who are independent. They like approval, but it's not absolutely positively necessary for them to be able to do what they do. So that's number 7. Number 8, it says leaders who develop leaders want to be succeeded, meaning I'm trying to teach you how to do this so that way I don't have to be here every time for every single thing that goes on. That's what creates freedom inside of direct sales. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that the goal, I think it's so funny. People are like, man, I just want to recruit some people who get this. I want to recruit some people who know what's going on. And then as soon as they have people who kind of get it and know what's going on, then they want to slow them down. Oh, they're going too fast. I don't want them to get away from me. I want to govern over them. I don't want them to succeed past me. No, you want them to succeed past you. You want them to be better than what you are, because what that does is that creates freedom, so that way you can go find somebody else and work with them. The stronger your leadership, the less you're needed there, which is great. But what you'll find is typically you want to work in the spots necessarily that you're not needed, not the spots that you are needed. It's a really weird concept to figure out. Chris is with us. What's happening, Chris Caller? Leaders who attract followers attract the bottom 20%. The bottom 20%, the people who don't get it. That's unfortunate, but that's where you start. You know, how do you start learning these lessons? You work with the people who necessarily don't get it all the way. What that does is it refines your skills. But what you want to do is leaders who attract followers focus on weaknesses. You know, oh my gosh, you're not doing this well. Let me help you with this. Oh my gosh, you're not doing that well. Let me help you with that. What you want to do is leaders who develop leaders focus on strengths. Hey, you're really good at connecting with people. You're really good at presenting with people. You're really good at these certain skills. Mark Cohen's with us. What's happening, sir? So you want to focus on helping the people develop the skill that they naturally already have. If they already connect with people, oh my gosh, let me connect you with more people, because if they're already good at that, they're going to be able to affect that group positively very quickly, especially inside of direct sales, especially inside of MLM, especially inside of network marketing. You're able to actually connect a lot more people faster if you use those types of things. Larry's with us. What's happening, sir? So leaders who attract followers treat everyone the same. You know, it's like, hey, you know, and what I've seen is it's usually surface based. And what I mean by surface based is like, hey, how are you? How are you? How are you? And they go off and they have their fun. I have some great friends in the industry. They just treat everybody, hey, it's great. Everything's great. Everybody's great, no matter what their background, what's going on. But what you'll find is leaders who develop leaders treat individuals differently based on what? Based on their skill set. There's a thing in the business, inside of the business, called inclusion and exclusion. Inclusion is you're always including everybody in the mass stuff that you're doing, but you need to actually, and John talks about this, develop your inner circle. And your inner circle cannot be developed with a bunch of people who are average. Now, they can be average right now, but they have to have strengths to become unaverage, because that's what's going to develop the overall group. So in the beginning, it's kind of hard to see all this. It's hard to kind of pick all this out. Terry says hello. I have a client. No problem. No problem. Thanks for joining us for a couple seconds. We need to talk anyway. I've got some tickets for you. So you got to treat individuals differently. Everyone's treated differently. I think it's partly by personality. Their personality, you're able to identify strengths and then help them develop those strengths. So, you know, one of the things that you have to realize is everybody has different personalities. Everybody have a different strength. Everybody has different weaknesses. Now, there are certain weaknesses, as John put it, that are not forgivable, unforgivable. You know, if you don't have character, that's not something we can work around. If you're not honest, that's not something we can work around. And he actually wrote a book called The 21 Qualities of a Leader. And that's a great book to kind of go through and understand. He's like, these are the qualities you have to have. You know, you will be stronger in some areas, but you can't not have them, if that makes sense. You know, you can't not have honesty. You can't not have character, because those would actually devastate the group instantly. These are things you have to have. But strengths meaning if you're good at organization. Strengths meaning if you're good with necessarily people in general and building relationships. Those can be strengths. Some people aren't as intuitive in those areas, but you can learn all of them. Like, you want to be able to understand all the 21 laws. If you don't get one of the laws at all, it's still something you need to work on and figure out. It's just not where you're going to focus all your time, because you might be better at navigation. You might be better at organization and figuring out how to actually cut the path with what you're doing and lay out the system. That might be what you're good at. You might be better at actually running the leads and bringing new people on than actually building the relationships with people. That's fine, but you still have to build relationships with people. So 13, leaders who attract followers spend time with others. If you're always by yourself, always doing it by yourself without other people, that's a clear sign that, they say, if you thinketh, you leadeth, and, you have no one following, you're really just taking a walk. And there's a lot of people out there walking. I find this typically with coaches of the world that don't have a team, that don't have anybody. That's probably not good. If you're promoting leadership and you're promoting these things, but you're not affecting anybody else around you. A lot of people are like, I'm a coach and I sit at home every day and I read, and that's all I do, which is fine in the beginning. But if you've been doing that, like Tony Robbins said, he's like, there's certain problems at every level in a business. He's like if you're in your first year and you're not breaking even, that's okay. That's normal. He's like, but if you're 5 years in your business doing what you're doing and you're not breaking even, now you have a serious problem. He's like, there's something you're doing wrong, and you need to seek out help for that. So that was 13. 14 says leaders who develop leaders invest in and with the right people. They invest in and with the right people. In the beginning, you're investing, in yourself, but then you're going to want to invest with other people. Take them with you to the event. If you're getting a book, get them the book. If you're, going to a certain meeting, you want to bring them with you to understand and see how it all works. There's a great book called Never Eat Lunch Alone. Never eat lunch alone, first of all, because you're going to eat lunch regardless. You should be building relationships. And if you read the book Influence, there's a book called Influence. I can't remember who wrote it. Great book. But what it talks about is your ability to influence people over food is stronger over food than anything else. Because why? People actually do business with people they actually hang out and have meals with, which is really, really interesting. So if you want to affect more people, that's why more business is done over coffee, over breakfast, over lunch, and over dinner. Big corporations will spend, in some cases, millions of dollars to actually get their people to go have meals with people and build that relationship. They said by breaking bread together alone affects, I want to say it was 27% in the study that they did, 27% more just by having a meal rather than just doing the meeting alone. So this is one of the ways, that you can positively affect people. By doing that, being able to not just break bread. Tanisha's with us. So that's just one of the things that you have the ability to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this back over to Bess, because this is actually a long, long list. I'm going to turn this back over to Bess, so I'm going to get her insights on the law of explosive growth, and then we're going to come back and finish out this list and some other thoughts. Bess?
Okay, thanks, Jeff. That was, I didn't know that, 27%. I knew that it was nice.
I'll get you the exact number. It might be as high as 40%. Oh. Jeff eats more food than anyone. That's everybody asks. Josh just said that. That's why I work out so hard. Everybody's like, why do you work out so hard? It's because I have to eat with everybody.
Then I can go eat more or eat more times. So exercise a lot so you can eat lots so you can invite somebody with you. And that's real different for me, who has been a loner most of my life. I've been a shy person, a loner. Oh, I can do it alone. I disagree with a lot of, stuff going on in the world. So I'm just going to create my own little world and live in it. And I don't need people. And really, I grew up this way. So I had to really work. I'm still working counter to that, to think team. And it was one of John Maxwell's books about teamwork. And he was saying that's the only way to be successful. Nobody ever becomes a success alone. Of course, you need other people to multiply and share and grow like a tree, instead of just keeping to my own little self. So I had to get over that. And I had to start thinking, oh, it's not just me, Bess, in this little world. There's other people. And I think there's a difference for me between, thinking selfishly and thinking bigger. Oh, I'm okay. I'm doing fine. My own little world is okay. I'm successful myself or whatever. Instead of saying, how many people can I help this lifetime before I go? How can I include other people? How can I make this lifetime worthwhile? And one that I can leave contently that I have helped other people. And it's a lot like, again, you know, is it selfishness or is it love? Selfishness would be like the parent who wants to control the child and keep them little and keep them at home versus give, you know, so they can have the power, feel good themselves or something, versus to help the child be independent and self-sufficient. And like Jeff said yesterday, what about if you help a team member? I mean, what if a team member goes and signs up somebody without you and you think, well, don't they need me? I'm supposed to be helping. That's my role. That's where I feel comfortable. Versus, wow, this business can build itself while I sleep. And even more important, that person now has the skills. It's like graduating, right? One of your team members just graduated to be independent, or your child graduated to leave home. And yeah, it's a bittersweet thing. But isn't that ultimately what we want for people's best interest in the long run, and not to be selfish and keep the child at home and be able to control them all and all that? So it's giving away that power. And when we do, you know, when we bring people on a team, and both in my former network marketing business, I'm a generic dedicated coach right now. I'm not in a company, nor will I be, but and I also grew state organizations of volunteers. In both cases, these are not employees or people that you can boss. They've got to be people that you can inspire. And they know, they can sense if you have their best interest in mind for their growth, or whether you're trying to keep a lid on them or be jealous of their growth or not. So they can sense that. And a good leader, of course, wants to turn over the power and grow leaders of leaders, not just leaders, but leaders of leaders. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Having a bunch of leaders multiplying themselves and duplicating themselves on your team. So we know that when we bring another person to work, Jeff and I together, working together as a team has just been phenomenal for me. It's opened up so many areas in my mind and my brain and my heart, in creativity and results and the people that we can reach, because 1 + 1, anytime you bring somebody on your team, 1 + 1 equals way more than 2, because of the exponential factor, and the energy combined is explosive growth. Especially since we are developing leaders. See, we are influencing people to influence people to influence people. So that's real rewarding, sitting in our chair and being coaches of leaders to develop leaders to develop leaders. That's why we love what we do. This said that if you really understood residual income, you would break down a brick wall to get there. I have more, but I'll turn this over to Jeff now so we can hear more of what's on his list. Real quick, I want to say hi to the people who've come on before you go. Vicki, Joyce from Austin, Alan, Marty, Lucy, Jane, Kareem, Terry, Gino, Monica, Marilyn, Francisco. Thank you all for your comments. And there's, please leave questions because we will handle those at the end. Okay, Jeff.
So here we go. Weapons of Influence was the chapter. So this is actually the book that I was referring to. Influence. It says science and practice. So the very first chapter is good, but the second chapter, the law of reciprocation, is absolutely amazing when it talks about, you know, giving first. They talked about, you know, samples and things like that. There's a lot of great stuff in here, especially if you're going to be in direct sales network marketing, if you're going to be in the nonprofit world. This is probably a must book to get and go over. And I also just picked up, this actually came in today, Be Obsessed or Be Average, Grant Cardone. I got like 3 of his books. Amazon's dangerous, especially when you're shopping late at night. That's the law of explosive buying. So that's a different law in retail that we'll go over in another time. So leaders develop with the right people. So we're on 15. Leaders who attract followers grow by addition, but leaders who attract leaders grow by multiplication. So if you want to multiply your team, you have to bring people on that get it, and then bring other people on who get it. So leaders who attract followers impact only the people they physically touch. But what you'll find is leaders who develop leaders impact people way beyond their reach. It's one of the reasons John actually started writing books. John didn't want to write books. John said he wasn't good at writing books. John said, if I wrote a book, you wouldn't have wanted to read it. But what he did is he ended up speaking with, a renowned speaker, Les Brown. And he was discussing this with Les. And he's like, Les, you're such a great speaker. He's like, why would you want to give away something for $10, $15 that you yourself are amazing? You're one of the best at it. Why would you want to give it away for $15? He goes, because those people are never going to come to my events. Those people would never pay to see me. And what it does is it allows me to extend my reach way beyond what I would have ever been able to do by myself with my own physical ability. And John said he got on the plane after that, just shaking his head. He's like, I was an idiot. He's like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. He's like, if I want to influence that person based on what I'm doing, I have to physically be there. But to be able to influence people all over the world, to be able to influence people in different languages, to be able to influence all these people at the same time, to be able to influence people when I'm asleep, he's like, I need to write a book. The problem was he didn't know how to write a book. So what did he do? He used these laws to find Charlie. And Charlie actually is the gentleman responsible for writing. I want to say it's like 95% of his books. John worked on the first couple himself, but John ended up, hiring somebody to work on. Sorry, this news feed is going faster than I can get to people. Laura says something. Monica, you have to be willing to teach all people, not just the people in your immediate circle. Right. So that's what's great about video. That's what's great about YouTube. That's what's great about writing a book and being able to affect more people. So leaders who develop leaders impact people beyond their physical reach. So that's what you want to be able to do. How well does that work? Well, you can be away from an organization for years and know that it's still going on. That's one of the ways. And that's the beauty of actually developing inside of this space, inside of this profession, the MLM profession or the direct sales or network marketing profession. So leading others to the law of explosive growth. Why doesn't everybody develop leaders? Well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, leaders are hard to find. Leaders are hard to find. Why? Because they're already doing something. So, now it's not as hard to find because we have things like Facebook and you can see the messages people put out. All I do is I just watch the messages people put out. I'll scroll through their news feed. Honestly, lately it's been really weird because we've been doing these shows and because we've been connecting to so many different groups. I've actually had more people reach out and say, hey, be my friend, join my group, take a look at this, take a look at that. And all I do is I scroll through their news feed. Are they a leader? I can tell by the garbage or non-garbage that they're putting out. Is their page about personal growth? Is their page about, fun, amazing places to go? Is their page about dream building? Is their page about building people? And that's really what it boils down to. Is their page about building people or is their page about hating people and tearing people down? That's what I look for. And I can't tell you the number of people that like, I'm a leader, I'm a coach, and then I look at their page and it's hate, 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 destruction, death. And I'm like, do you understand the message? Do you understand the business you're in, first of all? But do you understand the message that you're actually putting out to everybody? And most of the time they don't. And I actually don't. I unfollow, 3 or 4 people every day. Now I don't unfriend them. Understand that I don't ghost people where it's just like I said typically what I'll do is I'll just unfollow so that way I don't see any of that. But I'm positively affecting them, but they're not affecting me at all because I don't see anything that they do. 2, great leaders are hard to gather. Yes, it is hard. It's like corralling cats. If you're a cat herder, you will probably understand this. But the reason it's so hard to get leaders to gather is because of, number 1, the law of the lid. Number 2, having a subject matter that everybody's interested in. Leadership is usually interesting to leaders, and you have to be good at what you're doing. Monica says, as my mentor said, you can invite people to your dream if you look like, yeah, exactly. You can't invite people on a trip that you don't want to go on either. You're like, it's awful here, you should come. That might work with a couple people, but not a big group of leaders. And then number 3, leaders are hard to keep. Why is it hard to keep? Because if you're not consistent with what you're doing, if you're not going in the right direction, if you're not succeeding yourself, if people don't see you're moving in the direction, what happens is, again, going back to this book, Social Proof, When you don't see anything happening and social proof isn't there that you're moving forward, that it's growing, what people do is they get stagnation disease. And once you get stagnation disease, then you start trying to change everything to make it work better. Okay, we'll do this, we'll do that, instead of staying on the path that was actually growing the business. And that's why it's just difficult. The law of consistency is actually in this book as well, talking about, you know, doing the right thing and the same thing over and over again to create the volume that you need to effectively influence people. So those are the three things, that reasons why, you know, they're hard to find, they're hard to gather, they're hard to keep. Teaching statements about the law of growth. So I'm going to turn this back over to Bess, and then our closing thoughts. I'm going to go over how do you teach this? What are you looking for? Bess?
Okay, so a couple examples of explosive growth. You guys have heard of Papa John's Pizza? Started in Jeffersonville, Indiana, which is the state Jeff lives in. And in 1985, they had their first store. 6 years later, 46. 1 year later, after that, 110. A year after that, it doubled, 220. And 5 years after that, 1,600. Because he franchised and developed and taught other people how to do that too. Essentially developed leaderships. And Francisco says, where's Monica's mentor? Lloyd Williams, a friend of mine. It's how I met Monica. You can follow him on Facebook. He's a pretty high-powered, positive thinking fellow, Lloyd Williams. I actually told his story. He's the one who gave, the other day I told a story, he gave up a seat on a plane to a serviceman and ended up meeting a wrestler who was interested in this business. So he was, you know, it was, and when the law of sacrifice, I talked about that, he gave up a seat and he got something even greater in return. So, okay, another example of explosive growth is John Maxwell's church. The membership went from 1,700 to 14,000 in 7 years by following these principles. What does this look like in network marketing? Well, a friend of mine has 500,000 people in her downline. And she didn't do that by keeping it all to herself or trying to control people. So real quick, comparing that list that Jeff mentioned. If you want to attract followers, people who want to attract followers need to be needed, but leaders want to be succeeded. People succeed over them. Leaders who attract followers develop the bottom 25%, but if you develop leaders, you develop the top 20. To attract followers, focus on weakness. Leaders focus on strengths. Attracting followers develops everyone the same, and developing leaders treats everyone differently. Attracting followers spends time with others versus investing time with others. Growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. Impacting only the people they touch versus impacting people that your leaders touch, way beyond what you could do. And so to develop, to apply this law, identify your stage. Are you in the stage of personal success or organizational growth or explosive growth? And that takes developing the leaders. And back to Jeff.
Okay, guys, so how do you actually teach this, or what are you looking for? What you'll find is people say the more, you know, your organization grows, the heavier the load becomes because you're having to do everything. If you're having to do everything, it means you're creating a lot of followers, but you're not necessarily creating a lot of leaders who can do it on their own. If everybody's coming back to you to ask the questions, you know, rather than going out and seeking the answers by themselves and then saying, hey, look, I looked this up. Here's 3 or 4 different ways to do it. Which way is the best? That's a different kind of question than, hey, what do I do? You know, if people keep coming back, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? What do I say? And they're never actually going and seeking out the answers themselves. What you've done is you create a lot of followers. That's okay. You just have to shift and teach people how to lead. Part of leadership is finding the answers themselves, you know, seeking out the people, seeking out the right people to ask. Second, I don't spend a lot of time with key people. If you're not spending a lot of time at all, you know, some people are just, they're more travel agent, and I'm not talking about anything in direct sales, but some people are more travel agents than travel guides. Travel agents selling you, hey, go there. Travel guide, hey, let me take you there. The best teachers usually are the guides, the ones that can take you in the field and actually physically show you how to do it. You know, I've many times I've sat with people, which I'll probably do later today, because we're going to be making a lot of calls. And I've sat with people and actually showed them, hey, here's how I follow up with everybody. Yesterday, I had to go through a bunch of people. And I remember sitting with a group of people, say, here's what I do. I get this list. I plan out, here's the 3 objectives of what the call is. And then I start calling and I go through, and it's these 3 objectives, these 3 objectives. So physically going through and letting them hear what the difference is makes such a different understanding. Also, you can tell somebody exactly what to say, but until they hear the tonality, until they hear the speed, until they hear the clarity, until they hear the confidence, they might not understand what you're trying to get across until they actually physically go through it. So it's just being able to teach, and that goes back to, you know, never eat alone. If you never eat alone, if you're never going to get coffee by yourself, but getting coffee as a group, you're able to affect and train a lot of people and teach them what to do by doing it. Last, I have several good people on my team. I'm just not sure they can lead others. Well, if you're not sure, part of it is just being able to talk about leadership and being able to lead them, equip them to what? Equip them with how to lead, you know, equip them with the information, equip them with the book, equip them with a seminar, equip them with a course, equip them with the Facebook show, equip them with, you know, maybe a process to go through. Are you leading people to the answers is the question. You don't have to do that, but that's how to do it in the beginning, especially when you don't know what to do. You say, hey, look, I realized, and the first thing is admitting fault in yourself. It's easier to get people, this is funny, it's easier to get people to listen to you when you show them what you've done wrong than when what you show them done right. Because if you say, hey, I've done everything right, people want to throw rocks at you. But if you say, hey, I've done this wrong, people are like, oh, really? Because I've done that wrong too. They won't admit it maybe right up front, but they're listening because, you know, you've done it wrong. So I've done it wrong a lot. You know, one of the things I did wrong was I didn't understand how to teach this. I didn't understand this was important. I didn't understand why to do it. Max is with us. What's happening, sir? So what I did is I started actually doing it. I said, you know, I didn't really understand leadership. I didn't really understand people. I didn't really understand how to do this. I just thought you were just supposed to recruit people and they were going to figure it out because that's who I was. My sponsor was here, but our leadership was in California. And I didn't talk to them at all for the first 6 months. Now you're supposed to do it that way. No. Did they call? Yes, they called, but I was busy, so I didn't answer the phone. So I literally built for 6 months, kind of by myself, winging it. And then eventually I realized, hey, these people, and it was really funny. The first couple conversations I had with my actual team leader that was leading the organization that was making $30,000 a month, he would talk to me, and it was always funny. He was talking to me about personal development. Oh my gosh, have you ever heard, you know, The Strangest Secret? I'm like, no, I can't say that I have. He goes, oh, okay, I'm going to send that to you. You know, have you ever heard this by John Maxwell? No, I can't say I have. Have you ever heard this by Jim Rohn? No, I can't say I have. Have you ever heard this by Brian Tracy? I mean, that's what kept, and he kept sending me information and sending me information. And funny enough, what I realized he was doing is anytime I asked him a question, he was actually pushing me to listen to something. And what he really was saying is, quit asking questions, go figure it out yourself. What did that do? That made me go figure it out myself. I didn't really understand it until I came out, and he actually sat down and gave somebody else the answer. And I was like, why'd you do that? He goes, they're at a different level of leadership than you. I was like, huh? And he's like, you haven't read the 21 laws that I sent you, have you? I was like, no, but I bought another copy just to make sure I had another copy of it. He's like, yeah, good. Quit buying books and start reading them. He actually, sometimes I say he wasn't that blunt, but sometimes he was that blunt. You know, he realized certain personalities, and he got to a point. He's like, I feel like I can just say that to you. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And what did I do? I finally went back and read it after I had a team and didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, all of these lessons came alive. It says I have that same kind of coach. Yeah, I mean, some people need to be blunt, but you need to understand people's personalities, because I can be blunt with other people, and that doesn't work at all. In fact, it will negatively impact. I didn't know that in the beginning, so I pushed away. I didn't understand that as a D-type personality that makes decisions really fast, I would attract S-type personalities that do not make decisions very quickly. But I was trying to treat the S-type personalities like the D-type personalities. Not understanding personality types is devastating to your organization. It's devastating to your success. So that's one of the main things that I try to teach people is eventually I get to a point where after I teach them the basic skill of what to say and what to do, then every conversation we talk about is, how would that personality see that lesson? And it takes a long time to figure that stuff out. That's where you have to be out in the field making the mistakes over and over again until you understand there are 4 distinct personality types, 4 different kinds of people, and they all take the information completely differently. So you have to understand and tailor it to that personality if you want to affect a lot of people. It makes it even harder when you're teaching a group like this. Because when you're teaching a group like this, if you don't hit all 4 of the different personality types, or watch this, you start offending one of them because you don't understand, because you're using your personality type as a whole to teach all the lessons, you'll just completely remove that group of people. I mean, the entire group of people from your lessons. So important stuff to understand, important stuff to know. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess for some closing thoughts, and we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I hope that we hit all 4 personality types here today. That's always a good question I like to ask myself. And if you're talking to an individual, you can match them, right? But if you're talking to a group, hit all 4. Or in your 10-minute presentation that you do for people, that should hit all 4 of them, so that you can have a generic, ready presentation for everybody. If you've gotten value from this, we'd love if you like, comment, or share. And I really appreciate the people who've been sharing this with other network marketing groups, because we get really good feedback of people that it helps, and people find their way to the Facebook group, the MLM Lunchtime membership show, and that's how the group grows. So we love it when you share. Who has a question? To type in a question about leadership, or about creating a leader, about explosive growth, or anything about network marketing. Type that in. This show and every show, because we do handle questions at the end. Who would like a text reminder for this? Private message me and I'll add you to that. Of course, you see the replay on our Facebook group, MLM Millionaire, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. And you can also find it on YouTube under the same thing. And there are closed captions there for people that like that. Questions, comments, takeaways. What was your greatest takeaway today? What did you learn? Did you get $1 million idea? Did you get one thing that you can apply to your business today? Mine was about the food. It's like, wow, I'm going to incorporate that more. You know, so every tip that you get here can grow you, not only as a person, but grow you financially too. Then back to Jeff.
Okay, guys, with that, what we want to do is tomorrow, we're actually going to hit law number 21, which is the law of legacy. So that's the last in the series, but we have a couple days left in the end of the month. And rather than starting over immediately, what we might do is maybe just a couple days finishing out this week. We're going to do just a couple days. Yes, food. I never knew that. So yeah, eat, you know, go out. It doesn't mean you have to eat necessarily big meals with everybody, but being able to, you know, connect with people. Adrian says 4 different personality types. So these are different things that, you know, a higher level of leadership is connecting the dots. It's really interesting when you start connecting the dots with, this is the way somebody learns, this is their learning style, this is their personality style, this is their drive. Obviously male and female see things in different ways too, so being able to connect the dots there. And then, you know, social groups, certain backgrounds, certain cultures see things differently. So being able to connect the dots across all these, imagine how influential you can start being. It says, for instance, it says, leading others to grow other leaders and not just followers. Yeah, that's a great connection. So these are just some of the things that, you know, internally you want to learn how to do and connect these dots over time. First of all, you work on yourself to figure out yourself, and then you're able to figure these things out with other people. But we're going to take a couple days just to talk about leadership, talk about some of Maxwell's maybe other trainings. I'd love to be able to run through the 5 levels of leadership in these next few days. I think that's probably what we'll cover. And then September, when September starts, actually, September starts on Saturday, but we're going to start on Monday to run through the 21 laws again. And people say, why do you keep going over this again? You know, if you already have the 21 laws memorized and each one of the lessons memorized, Dan's with us. What's happening? If you have all those lessons memorized already and you could write them down, fantastic, from memory, and all the lessons and all the points. But the reason you go over this again and again and again is because as you keep going over it, you start seeing more and more. Yeah, I suggest you take a look at the disc. Yeah, disc diagrams or disc profiling is probably one of the best. That's a book on my shelf that I actually hand out quite often. anytime I'm at Half Price Books and I see the personality book, or I see the 21 laws, or I see developing a leader within you, I typically will pick up another copy of it. Why? Because I give copies of this away. I cut consistently as I run into people, and not just people in business, not just people who are on my coaching. I have, we have a massage business, so I run a couple different things. I have a real estate company. We have a holistic health company. So as I run into people who need this, I get called for coaching, both inside direct sales and outside direct sales. When I run into people who need certain things, and I'm like, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever read this? Here's a book that will help you understand that particular lesson. Being somebody who gives the information out, it's up to them it's up to them what they do with it. But I want to make sure I'm at least equipping the people and sending them away with the information so they can learn independently without me physically being there. Hey, read this and then let's talk. That's one of the ways, if you're trying to get a lesson through somebody that's not getting or not understanding it, here's the book that covers the lesson. Until you're done reading it, don't get back with me on this subject. It's one way to control your time. So with that, I'm gonna turn this back over to Bess for some closing thoughts.
Just a question, Jeff. Has John Maxwell gone into, does he have a book or anything describing the 4 different personality types?
Yes and no. He does hit on it, but it's not something that is thoroughly described. The best book that I found on this subject is
The 21 Qualities of a Leader. I imagine that goes into it a bit. It's backwards here. Can you read it to us?
Sure. It's Positive Personality Profiles, DISC. This is probably the best book I've seen. This guy actually, DISC, the DICS, is not copywritten itself, but the information, his layout of it is. So this book actually goes into, this is kind of the basic version. And then there's like the master's degree copy where it talks about the different combinations of everything. Is there more technical versions of this? This is the easiest one I found to understand. Somebody's like, well, what you need to do is you need to read about Myers-Briggs. And Myers-Briggs actually breaks it down into 16. Yeah. Some people are like, that's too complicated.
Right.
This is the easiest to understand network marketing and what's going on. Now, if you're going to be a psychologist and you need to pick out down to the exact letter, you're hiring engineers that make $300,000, $500,000, and you need to know exactly their little ticks of what's going on. That's what Myers-Briggs for. It's a much more in-depth study. If you're trying to write a paper for the government and you're doing that kind of study, that's what Myers-Briggs is for. It's not that you can just understand a surface level, but it's to dig deeper into what's going on. This is the basics. This would help you in direct sales. Myers-Briggs will help you too, but I would read this first to understand the basics and then go into something like that. Does that help out?
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I like 4 better than 16 for teaching and duplicating and getting it straight in my mind. And the DISC is also, we came together and we both realized we teach the DISC model. Do you think that, what do you think of teaching a little bit of that on Thursday and Friday, since we have those 2 days, giving a little bit of the 4 personalities?
It's possible. So tomorrow is Wednesday. So yeah, Thursday, Friday, I really want to hit the 5 levels, but while we hit the 5 levels, we can kind of cover some of this.
Good. Okay. So stay tuned, folks. That's coming. And it's so all important in everything with family members, with getting, selling your service or product, or recruiting and training, developing leaders, those 3 levels, the product, the recruiting, and the developing leadership. I think it plays into all that. So great. We get a touch into that. And thank you each for being here. We value every one of you, and the fact that you're going to be exponentially developing leaders is what we get up for in the morning. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Same place, same time.